You ready?
Yeah.
Once again, we present
Bill Martinez Live.
What did you say?
You're listening to Bill Martinez Live.
Welcome back, America. 20 minutes after the top of the hour. I am Bill Martinez, and with us right now is the one and only Carl Gallup, founder of PP Simmons. He's here with the latest on the Mike Zulu update and the pending ruling regarding President Obama's eligibility and the latest stunner to come down the pike. Brother Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bill Martinez. God bless you. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no, great to have you on. Been looking forward to this. Boy, I'll tell you, the information keeps coming out regarding this investigation.
Yes.
And what Lieutenant Mike Zulu has done. I think it's important for people to understand. I was saying this earlier, Carl, that Michael is not some, just blogger out there who's just trying to get some attention. I mean, this guy is a professional investigator, and he knows his craft. He is approaching this very professionally. I mean, this has been a 2.5 year, almost 3 year investigation that has taken place. So it's not like he got the first, string of evidence and was ready to take it to the court and say, look, this is all wrong. I mean, he has been doing his due diligence to no end.
Yes, he has, and you've spoken correctly. And let me just say, they've been the cold case posse, of which he is the lead investigator. In fact, his official title is Commander Mike Zulu. But he doesn't like that at all. But that is his title through the sheriff's office. He is appointed by Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He has full police powers. He has full powers of the sheriff's office as they flow from the sheriff to him as the commander of that unit. Mike Zulu comes out of New Jersey with, I think, close to 30 years of prior law enforcement experience as everything from a street cop to an investigator. Then he worked in private investigations. He owned his own private investigation company for years. So investigations is his forte. He is a consummate professional. No, he's not just some blogger or some cop wannabe or some investigator wannabe. He's not a journalist, investigator, doesn't desire to be, doesn't pretend to be. He is a cop. He is an investigator. And when he was called into this case, he and the 6 other investigators with him, and he said this many times, they knew very little about the Obama fraud allegations when they were first called into this 2 years ago. The media pretty much did a complete shutdown, blackout of it, so right. Even the people that were collected by Arpaio knew very little about it. Sheriff Arpaio knew very little about it. The only reason he assembled this team was because he got a petition with over 250 signatures from people in his county who were demanding that he investigate the possibility that their county had been defrauded and their state had been defrauded in the election. So he kept avoiding it. Finally, he saw that, just purely politically speaking, he had to at least look into it. His instructions to Mike Zulu, the commander of that cold case posse, his instructions were, look, I want to be the sheriff who clears the president. Now, Arpaio's not a big fan of Obama's, but he thought that this birther stuff was a bunch of hooey, like everybody else was led to believe by the media.
Exactly.
So everybody who got that case, even Mike Zulu said, Carl, I knew very little about it. He said, I thought we were going to be able to clear this thing up in 30 minutes. He said, but within a couple of hours of examining the initial evidence, we knew that we had a potential crime on our hands. He said, within a few weeks of immersing ourselves in criminal forensic investigation, we were 100% sure. And he said, since then, we've been amassing evidence. They've got, I think he said 300 or 400 pages of report of evidence and courtroom ready evidence. The reason I say I think, because he put together a 207 point affidavit some days ago, and I was interviewing him, and he said there were some 300 pages more to follow. So it's just this massive criminal investigation. But just recently we've had some big breakthroughs. I guess that's what you wanted me to talk about.
Well, I want to talk about that, and I wanted to lay down this foundation that people understood that there are rules of evidence in play here that are adhered to by police investigators, by the court. They demand this, and And to this point and to this end, Commander Zulu and his cold case posse, the other 5 investigators, have been adhering to this to make sure that what it is that they present is not something just off the seat of their pants, that is all very well documented. It is fully investigated so that, the credibility of their research and their work, stands for itself.
Right. No, absolutely. And I do want to clear up something with your listeners. Perhaps some of them are confused in this issue because a lot of people have, again, thanks to mainstream media not doing their due diligence on one of the most heinous constitutional travesties in the history of our nation. But a lot of people have been clamoring for Sheriff Arpaio to file criminal charges, press charges. Well, listen, it's bigger than that. Sheriff Arpaio is not going to file criminal charges in Arizona. It's bigger than that. What they're trying to do, and this is the breaking news we have in a moment because it looks like it's getting ready to happen, they have been trying for 2 years. And then Mike and I got involved, went to CPAC, went to Capitol Hill, had a bunch of meetings with folks, and now what they're trying to do is to get a full-blown congressional investigation going because a crime has been committed. A document has been forged and fabricated and passed off to the American public as an original, verifiable document of identification. Remember, Bill, this long-form birth certificate proffered by the White House is the only document of identification that has ever been given to the American public to identify who the man in the White House is, and it is a 100% forgery. It's a fabricated fraud. So a crime has been committed. Now, Obama can claim he didn't know anything about it. He's got a little plausible deniability. But the deal is, if Congress investigates this, there are all manner of questions. Number one, who did fabricate this? They need to be in prison. Number two, who in the White House posted it, more than likely knowing that it was a fraudulent fabrication? Number three, why would they feel it necessary to fabricate and forge a document to identify the president? And number four, what did the president know? How was he involved? Number five, okay, let's pretend like the president's totally innocent. Show us your real birth certificate documents. Let's see your real identifying documents, since the only ones that you've put up there are fake. It goes on and on and on. Then from there, Congress can get involved in the whole Social Security issue, the whole selective service card issue. The cold case posse ran into problem after problem after problem when they were investigating this, and they want Congress to look at this. They don't want to take it to some local district attorney or even a state attorney, a state attorney general. They want this to fall into the hands of Congress, where they can subpoena anybody in the United States from Hawaii to Arizona, and where they can investigate this to the fullest and bring it about to the resolution it needs to have.
Well, we know the cold case posse has crisscrossed the states, including, as you mentioned, Hawaii, and discovered some interesting facts about the way Hawaii hands out their birth certificates, which is a whole nother bucket of gum all into itself. But we've got more with Carl Gallups and the latest on Mike Zulu and the cold case posse and their findings and where we go from here. So stay with us, America. This is Bill Martinez Live. It is 28 minutes after the hour, and the big question is, could this be the biggest fraud in U.S. history? Lawmen and elected officials shocked by the new evidence presented by Lieutenant Mike Zulu, we should say Commander Mike Zulu now, Obama birth credentials fraudulently and criminally fabricated. Boy, what a headline here, Carl.
Yeah, well, the headline's absolutely accurate. In the biggest breaking news, and now we have a U.S. congressman involved, and it's getting deeper. The latest breaking news is May 31st, June 1st, June 2nd, there was a convention in St. Charles, Missouri, the National Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association Convention. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawmen, attorneys, elected officials from around the country gathered in St. Charles for this convention. The keynote speaker that night was Congressman Steve Stockman out of Texas. Now, Steve Stockman is known for already calling for impeachment on Obama over Second Amendment issues. and he is an avid Constitution supporter and an outspoken and courageous congressman and very well respected. Steve Stockman was the keynote speaker, and the sheriffs, aware of what Zullo and Arpaio was doing, they asked Zullo to do something amazing. They asked him to speak for about 20 or 30 minutes and give kind of a public presentation to these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawmen and elected officials, etc., concerning what they had on this Obama fraud. But, more astounding, they gave him a 2-hour breakout session whereby he could give all of his evidence, criminal evidence, to the credentialed lawmen and congresspeople and attorneys that were there. So Zullo checked with Sheriff Arpaio. Arpaio gave full permission. Mm-hmm. So Mike Zullo had this, what was going to be like an hour-and-a-half conference. It turned in, by popular demand, it turned into an over 3-hour conference, the room packed with sheriffs, police chiefs, police officers, investigators, attorneys, state attorneys, constitutional attorney, U.S. Congressman Steve Stockman, and he dumped out the entire criminal case. And Bill, and this is why I feel so vindicated now, because not one single of those professionals that were packed into that room challenged a single piece of evidence. Every one of them acknowledged that it was a full-blown 100% criminal case, viable for a courtroom presentation. None of these law enforcement professionals looked at it and turned up their nose and said, well, this is just junk. Every one of them were outraged. The congressman was blown away. He has asked for a deeper and further meeting. Apparently Zullo's getting ready to fly back to Washington and meet with Stockman. Talks among the lawmen there are for congressional hearings. They're promising the congressman they will back him on this. I mean, it's getting big. Plus, there was another big door that Mike Zullo had been trying to open that I'm not at liberty to say who it is yet, but there were people at that convention who promised Zullo, we have the connections to make that door open. We will open this door for you. So that's not counting other things that Zullo and I had already arranged from our visit to CPAC and Capitol Hill, and big things that are coming down the pike. This convention, the sheriff's convention, was like icing on the cake. And you want to know a God story behind this, Bill?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as it turns out, Steve Stockman is one of the congressmen that gave us his attention at CPAC. We sat in a private room with Steve and his chief of staff and explained everything that was going on. So Steve was already pumped about it and was already looking into it. But when this sheriff's convention was held and they invited Mike to come, Stockman didn't know that Zullo was going to be there. Zullo didn't know that Stockman was going to be there. Zullo didn't know that Stockman was the keynote speaker. And Stockman didn't know that he would have the opportunity to sit in a room and measure the reactions of hundreds of lawmen as the criminal evidence was dumped out. I mean, God just put all this together, I believe, because this just all, quote, coincidentally happened.
Right, exactly, as God always does things so coincidentally, as we know. And, you know, I thought it was very interesting with Mike Zullo's response that he said as he was presenting, he could hear audible gasps from those attending. I mean, these are law officers just blown away by the evidence. Yes,
they're outraged. I'm going to use the word outraged. I think Mike used that word or a similar word in an interview he did with me. They're outraged. They're outraged at the media because the media has blacked this out. I mean, this is way bigger than Watergate, and look what they did with Watergate. This is way bigger than Monica Lewinsky, and look what the media did with that. They are outraged because these lawmen looked at this evidence, and it is criminal evidence. This is not some, like you said, he's not just some blogger. He's not some part-time journalist. He's not some Hobby Lobby guy. I mean, this guy is a professional, and he is recognized for his professionalism. And now, it's like I told Mike Zullo the other day, Bill, if this goes no further, and I know it will, it's going to go much further, but if it stopped today and just didn't go any further, and this travesty was allowed to just go down in history as just something that never got handled, we're vindicated. I mean, because now it's not just me and Mike Zullo and Sheriff Arpaio saying, look what we've got, look what we've got. Now it's, you know, scores and scores and scores of professional lawmen, attorneys, a constitutional attorney, and a congressman who all sat in a room together and saw it all and said, "Oh my gosh, a fifth grader could see this. This is amazing." Right. And so, we're vindicated. The birther tinfoil hat thing, that's gone. I mean, we're not right. Tinfoil hat. We're not birthers. We're not idiots. This is real.
Right. And the thing is about this, Carl, is that, this administration is saying we need to get down to the bottom of this so that it would not happen again. Well, this is a case in point here. To have something like this, foisted upon we the people, and to be living this lie for, 4.5 going on 5 years now, and, we have been duped. And so how do we, get down to the bottom of this and not reproduce, this kind of insanity?
Yeah. Well, the answer is, and this is what Arpaio and Zullo and I are shooting for, a full-blown congressional investigation, and then whatever comes out of that, impeachment, arrests, whatever. I mean, remember Watergate. People went to prison. A president was impeached. He resigned from office over Watergate. Watergate is romper room compared to this, Bill. And what if, Bill, what if the congressional investigation reveals that the reason they had to fabricate a document is because he has no identifying U.S. documents? Now, if that's true, that means we have an absolute foreigner. I mean, that's a possibility. It may not be that this is the case, but it's a possibility that we have a non-U.S. citizen as commander-in-chief who took us into wars, who took us into Libya, who took us into Egypt, who took the SEAL Team 6 into Pakistan, who's been involved in Benghazi and the bringing down of that, and the IRS scandals and the AP scandals. It could be that a non-citizen is behind all of this. It could be. This demands a congressional investigation because the evidence has been shown to hundreds of people who are professionals who now say this is real stuff. This is not conspiracy theory stuff.
And bigger than that, Carl, it's how our national security has been compromised on so many levels.
Oh, yeah.
Foreign policy-wise, economically, domestically, I mean, on and on. Immigration, it just goes on. And,
Yeah, I was going to say, consider Obama's ties to the Middle East and Muslim Brotherhood, and consider the amount of Muslim Brotherhood that are in our government. What if Obama's not even a U.S. citizen? You see how deep this could get?
No, it's beyond awesome. There's no doubt about it. Carl, we got about a minute left here. The latest, of course, on his Social Security. You and I have been talking about this for the last year and a half. Real quick, update us on his Social Security.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of questions surrounding it. We have no criminal evidence amassed that Obama has done anything criminal with it, but all of that still be looking into, and we really need a congressional investigation to deal with that as well.
Well, we know that Susan Daniels reported a year ago that she could not, this is what she does, she e-verifies employees for employers, and she could not e-verify the President of the United States. I mean, that's pretty scary stuff. But like you said, with the rules of evidence being what they are, there's nothing there criminal that can be put together and assembled at this point. But again, this is some evidence that is beginning to lead in a direction to cause this question. Well, this is Bill Martinez, Carl Gallups. Thank you so much for being with us. We've got more coming up. Stay with us, America.